It's February. We are back talking baseball. We've been talking a lot of stuff, NFBC, some all the offseason moves, maybe a few corner infielders. But we'll be back talking baseball. All coming up next on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. It's been a while, but I can finally say happy Sunday night to everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am Scott Jenstad, joined as always during baseball season on Sunday nights by Jeff Erickson. Jeff, it's been a while. How are you?
I'm good. I'm raring to go, Scott. I'm excited to talk some baseball.
Nice.
James Anderson, Ryan Boyer, Chris Crawford have been doing amazing work all off season. We're parachuting in. We don't want to pretend like we're saving the day. We're hoping to add on to
Yep.
the tremendous content that's already been produced so far. And hey, I'm excited. This week we've got all of our podcasts going though. I'm going to be up on Tuesday night with Fred. Thursday, it's going to be Eric Hultram and I doing a review of the new roundtable rankings, which will be going up later this week. That's a tease for you there.
Very nice.
We still have big name free agents out there somehow, but I was consuming good content all day. It's a rainy day out here, so hey, listen to a bunch of podcasts. Listen to James with Phil Dussault and their latest, which was fantastic. I listened to the latest Sleeper in the Bus podcast. It's been a good day.
Yeah, it is. It's raining here. I'm hoping the power stays on. We got some wind going also, so hopefully we got some power for the next hour. But where are you in the baseball season so far? I'm notorious for starting late in baseball. Usually it's conference championship week in the NFL. I usually start right after that, which just happened last week. Mm-hmm. With the team that's in the Super Bowl, residing from the Bay Area, I'm a little more distracted than I'm a little more focused on football than I normally am at this point. So looking forward to that. If anybody has any Super Bowl tickets, hit me up. So the Niners are gonna be there, but yeah, I've started to jump in a little bit, started to look at ADP, started to look at stuff. Where are you in the baseball world here? You've done projections and stuff for the site, but where are you? Are you drafting yet? Where do you kind of fall out?
I've got two slow draft. Well, one slow draft is done in NFBC 50, and I'm also doing a draft champions right now. We're in like the 45th round. It's the speakers draft from First Pitch Arizona.
Nice.
And I'm realizing I have a lot more work to do. But that we always have a lot more work to do. You ever get those nightmares about, I have it like I have a midterm or a final, and I haven't gone to class for the last 6 weeks. Well, that's baseball prep in a nutshell right there. Is that because there's always something to study.
Yeah, that was pretty much my last week. As I look at people that are like, you have done 20 drafts, and I'm like, here we go, get going. And there's no way around it. I mean, prepping for baseball drafts is really, really fun, but takes a lot of work. There's no easy part of this. Prepping for this doing this podcast. There's a lot of work that goes into this stuff, and I'm just trying to get settled into that amount of work. I love doing it, but it's always a little difficult to find the time. So it's about that time. You got to ramp it up. If you don't ramp it up now, you're going to be in trouble. We play in obviously some really big competitive leagues, and if you don't get it going now, you're going to be in trouble. As I think both of us a little bit struggled last year, so we're both looking to redeem ourselves a little bit this year. With hopefully
absolutely. I know that Phil and Toby have put together the Champions League for the NFBC, and I think it's a wonderful idea. And I encourage you to reach out to those guys to find out more details. I haven't signed up yet, in part because I'm embarrassed about how I played last year. So I want to make sure I'm not throwing good money after bad. I probably will still do it, but
yeah, the Champions League is there's a main event, an online championship, and a draft champions. Your stats for those go together, and then everybody in it. There's 100 teams in it right now. The top 15 get into a live auction league in Vegas the next year, and there's a big pot of money that goes into that. So if you're signing up for all three of those anyway, it's a little bit more money that goes to the champions pot. Bat flip crazy Toby. It seems like he's the one that really has gotten that thing going and announcing when people join. I will probably join too. I haven't fully decided. I don't play draft champions, so I have to in order to get in, I have to do one of those. I have not done one of those in a while. I usually don't go that deep with rookies and deeper rosters, and they usually don't draft this early. But I think this contest might get me to do one this year.
Yeah, and just keep in mind that pot for next year is we throw an extra 250 in.
Yeah,
and that's what goes to the pot next year. And
so you're still playing in your regular contests across the board. Just there's an extra side pot and then extra side standings that go into it. So I guess the elephant in the room, Jeff, NFBC had a rough couple weeks. The last couple weeks, there was the I'm sure most people have seen, but there was some NFFC late moves that were made by someone that worked at the company, caused some problems there. The Ship Chaser guys did a really good podcast kind of breaking it down. Pete Overzet and Ben Gretsch, some good work there. So where do you follow the NFBC? Obviously, we talk about the NFBC a lot. It'd be weird if we didn't mention this. Obviously, it's a contest that's important to us. Where do you follow these guys right now? Are you fully fine playing here? Are you worried? Where do you kind of fall with the what's happened with the NFBC the last 2 or 3 weeks?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I let's just state for the record that I'm biased. We have a relationship with the NFBC and the NFFC, a business relationship and a friendship with.
Yeah.
I've known Greg for 25 years. He's one of the very first people I've met in the industry. So I'm inclined to always look at him in the most positive light. The NFBC has always been good to its customers. It's paid on time. It's solvent. It's responded to customers' concerns. Man, they're not perfect, and obviously, Greg could have handled this situation a little bit better, and particularly over-promising. There wasn't going to be another. They concluded already that there weren't any other instances of it, and he really should not have promised that. There's no way to possibly have known that within 24 hours. Whether to forgive the employee in question, the timing on that could have been maybe better, but consider that's who Greg is.
Yeah.
That's his ethos, that he had it was not just a mere employer-employee relationship. He was a friend, and he's betrayed, but at the same time, he shows forgiveness. Now, should he have done that on a message board post so quickly before all the details had come out and how customers are feeling wrong? Probably not. But I understand the motivation where they came from, the place in his heart where it came from. Will I continue playing in the NFBC and the NFFC? Of course, I will. They have now a third-party auditor that is going through every contest, and they're going to have that going forward too. And that's the thing, that they might be better positioned than other companies in the future because of their reaction to this now. I understand if other people think that's not good enough, or maybe, and that's it. I've seen a lot of back and forth on Twitter, not as much in the last 4 or 5 days. It's been quieter on that front lately. Maybe because those who have said their piece are no longer saying their piece, or maybe I just have missed it. I don't know. Regardless, I respect that opinion too. I think that it's important that we have the dialogue. I think there are some people that have chimed in without knowing everything, self-included, perhaps at some point in time. And I think it's important we find out what the facts are. And I'm grateful that those guys found out what happened.
Yep.
And that they reported it. I think that's because they're looking out for other players. And I think that, they went to Greg. It's not like they reported and didn't reach out to Greg or anything. And if you watch the YouTube video that they produced, I thought they did a tremendous job with that.
It's really, really good. Anybody that hasn't watched that, they want to see like all the details. They really broke it down really well.
Right. I've seen other people chime in that don't even play in the contest, and they're saying, "Oh, he should be divested of his company and all that." No, come on. That I have a problem with. But at the same time, I understand the cause for anger too. But I trust that Greg will get it right. Greg and Tom will get it right. It's up to you whether you trust that. And I'm not going to insist that you must trust that, or trust me for that matter. I mean, but I'm going to continue to keep playing, and I hope other people do too. I think we have a great community, and I hope it continues.
That's very well said, and I agree with almost everything you said there. I'm a little less biased because I don't have the business partnership. I don't actually work for RotoWire. Obviously, I know Greg. I've been playing the NFBC main event since 2007. And not only that, but he's saved the game like personally twice. There were a couple times they had they had a company that come in that ran it really poorly and almost went under. He saved it once. They handled the COVID season really, really well, and that was a year where a lot of games like really, really struggled. He did that well. So there's enough. I have enough goodwill with Greg and Tom and the way they run things that whether I may not agree with, like you said, all the way they handled it, especially the first 24 hours. There's enough goodwill, at least from my side of it, as a personal customer of them, that I will keep playing too. I do understand if people, A, maybe don't want to play as much money, or B, don't want to play at all. But I'm definitely still playing. I haven't decided exactly fully what I'm playing this year, mostly just of a work-life balance timing stuff. But we've been paid. I've been paid a lot of money from these people on time, many, many times. I've had 5-figure checks from them on multiple occasions in baseball and never had to worry about it. It was always a week after the season. It's an insanely fast payout schedule. They've had mistakes. They've had stuff that they handled really fast. Like last year, there was a deadline glitch where the site went down right deadline time. There was no real answer to that, and they were very transparent about it. We screwed up. This can't happen, but they came up with a solution. They handled it pretty well, and they made a decision and moved forward. So I just think that I love how active they are with they listen to customers, how active they are in trying to fix stuff. The Fab interface, they've listened to customers all over the years. A lot of companies just don't do that. There's a lot of websites out there that I play on that would never listen, and everything is the way it always is, and they never change anything. It's just always, it feels 15 years old, where the NFBC stuff feels really good. I love the players. I have a lot of friends that play. Like, going to Vegas is not just playing fantasy baseball for me. It's seeing a bunch of people. So I'm going to keep playing, but I do understand. I think it's very serious. I think that the integrity of the games is the only way we can play if we feel that's there. And, I think that they're taking steps to make that happen, which is really, really important. And obviously they had the wrong steps in place before. If one person has that kind of power, that shouldn't be able to do that. But I think that my feeling is they'll learn from this. They'll make it better, and there'll be a situation where they're probably looking out for it more than they never did before. And I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that's, I just know that they were blindsided by this. They never expected this sort of level of betrayal. And the thing is, the employee in question was good at his job. Yeah. Oh, that's the thing.
And you made the point. It's not just an employee; it's someone that Greg's been friends with for like 20 plus years. Like it's betrayal by a family member, friend kind of thing, not a random employee that decided to go rogue. It was like, I think his missteps early in what he posted the message were probably based on the fact that he was really genuinely hurt as a human.
Exactly right. So, yeah. I want to go back to arguing over how we can handle lineup glitches now, but
we're going to. I thought it was important to talk about it at the front. It was obviously a really big thing in the fantasy world. I mean, it was picked up by major sports sources, major people in the fantasy world. Like, it was a big thing, and it still is a big thing. I mean, they're going to have to figure out what comes out from that audit. My hope is that I think people have been digging into it. We haven't heard anything else, so maybe it was, isolated to these 2 or 3 months that was going on. So hopefully that's the case. But anyway,
I have a feeling baseball will be stronger than football.
I think they will feel the hurt of this more in football season than they will in baseball. I think they are far and away the best baseball site. I think there's a lot of football sites that a lot of people play on that are more popular. But I think baseball, it blows everybody away. And I think the baseball customers are pretty loyal too and pretty serious. And fantasy baseball players are a different group, and it's a hardcore thing. You can't do well without that.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. So why don't we jump into talking some baseball then? How about that?
Yeah. Let's talk actual baseball.
Beautiful. Well, there were a lot of off-season moves since you and I talked, so let's jump into those. But first, a note from our sponsors at Fantrax, who are sponsoring the podcast this whole preseason. Fantrax is the most customizable fantasy platform in the industry, offering the greatest fantasy experience for your dynasty, keeper, redraft, and best ball leagues. Coming from another service, Fantrax makes that easy too. Fantrax can import any of your current leagues and customize if needed. Fantrax offers the most in-depth player pool in the industry, including minor league players. Do you need a customizable commissioner service for your fantasy league? Fantrax offers more customization than any other platform: waivers, categories, scoring system, schedule. Fantrax offers custom solutions for all that and more, and it's all free. I could definitely vouch for that. I play in a dynasty basketball league that uses like the NBA salary cap as the salary cap. You have to follow that. And it's a 30-team league, so insanely customizable. Steph Curry's 60 points the other night were quite nice in that league, by the way. But sign up for free today and be entered to win an official Major League Baseball signed jersey from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Simply go to fantrax.com/RotoWire and sign up today. That's fantrax.com/RotoWire. Fantrax, the home of fantasy sports. So, Jeff, you mentioned the rain. We're both in LA. There were a few moves in LA this offseason so far. The biggest one, obviously, Shohei Ohtani coming to the Dodgers, 10 years, $700 million. We already talked about the $680 million that got kicked down the road. But fantasy-wise, ADP and NFBC drafts, I'm going to use the last month. There's a lot of drafts going on. Last month gives us I think it's 120 drafts. There's been a lot of drafts going on. ADP is about 13. Obviously not pitching this season. This is purely as a hitter. There is he's eligible pitcher, but obviously not going to pitch this year with the Tommy John surgery. How do you treat him in fantasy? Because, ADP 13, you need him to be a full-time, everyday hitter for 6 months. You just treat him as healthy. He sounds like he said Dodgers had their fan fest this week. Sounds like he's about to start hitting, good to go. How do you feel about him at the ADP of 13 right now?
I'm probably not there. His range is only like 6 to 20, so it's not even that big of a range. I back into the range, maybe sitting at 20, I might go over there. I don't know. I mean, we got another set of rankings, and I actually was around that with my last ranking, but the more I think about it, the more I'm probably not going to pay that price. Brandon Gomes, who's their GM now, they still have, they still have Friedman above, but all that. But they said that Ohtani's going to be somewhat limited to begin spring training. Obviously, he had the elbow surgery in September. I think it was the internal brace version, similar to Bryce Harper. So he could come back pretty early in the sequence because his surgery actually came a little bit before Harper's did. Because Harper obviously went all the way through the World Series. Then he had it afterward.
Yep.
But I wouldn't be surprised if he, is like the first 2 months, he doesn't hit for as much power. He's a DH only this year. And, you're not, obviously he's not pitching. So UT, I don't like filling my UT spot in the first or second round. So I don't think I'm going to be spending that price on it. I haven't yet, but spring training will kind of tell that story. Like we see, if we get to, the main event and he's been playing spring training games and raking and looks like he's going to play all the time, well, then I'll change my tune. But these early drafts, I'm not going to pay that going rate.
Yeah, it's tough. I think I probably fall in there more just there's so many guys in that range that I like, and I'm a little bit worried how he comes back from this. I think I agree with you. The first 6 weeks might be a little bit slow, but yeah, a couple bombs in spring training might solve that. But I mean, you look at his stuff last year, I mean, everything was elite. The StatCast page just jumps off the chart. There's a lot of bright red on that page.
Yeah.
19% barrel rate is fairly insane. The walk rate's way up. He's just obviously becoming just an absolutely elite hitter. Hit 304, 44 home runs, 20 stolen bases. And, it's an arm injury. So that's, you don't have to worry about the legs. I hate leg injuries for guys who run. So I figure the steals are in play. It all looks really good. The lineup, obviously, those top three guys are going to be absolutely insane as in a lineup. But everything looks good. I just think the injury enough will probably push me to other guys.
Yeah, I had a tweet string about this a little bit earlier today, talking about the power issue only and about position players coming back from TJS. And obviously, when you have the procedure is important. If you had, if he, Harper had his November. And him coming back when he did is still ridiculous, by the way.
Yeah, ridiculous.
But he had 5 homers at the end of July.
I was going to say, I was just looking at, and you look at, you're right. He had 3 in May, none in June, and 2 in July. That's
right. But then he had 10 in August,
right.
And you're like, okay, So I think, by the way, Harper's going to be nuts this year. I'll take Harper over Ohtani. How about that?
It's weird to see him being listed at first base, by the way.
Yeah, it is. It is very much so. But there's about 10 or 12 players. Wikipedia actually had a pretty decent list of all players that had TGS, and I just kind of went through that, picked and choose a few guys. But obviously, not all TGSs are the same. The internal brace procedure wasn't there for Jose Canseco, for instance. I don't know if Travis d'Arnaud even had it. But d'Arnaud bounced between 3 teams after he had his, and he had his surgery a lot in April, and then came back in 19. Was with the Mets, with the Dodgers for a cup of coffee, and then goes to the Rays and then goes nuts for them eventually. And then he goes to the Braves the next year and he's big too about that. But point is, there's a drop off initially from these players. Didi Gregorius, Aaron Hicks, Corey Seager a little bit too, and others they didn't come back right away. But if you had Sal Perez had his in March of 2019 or March of 2018 or March of 2019, missed the entire season. And then remember the 2020 season started late. He only played 37 games, but he slugged over 600 that year.
Yep.
But he had a whole year. He had a whole, a lot more time to recover from it there.
Yeah, it's just if you're going to pick a guy in the first round, you can't have 6 slow weeks.
Yeah.
You can if he's the next 20 are great, but I think I'm just going to click other names, to be honest.
Yeah. And if you look at the other names in that range too, I mean, you can look around and you can see it's the first round. I mean, there's just, that's the takeaway there.
It's
Trey Turner.
It's Trey Turner, Garrett Cole, Matt Olson, Yordan Alvarez, Jose Ramirez, and Bryce Harper. Those are monster names that you don't have anything. They're coming off it.
Right. Even Austin Riley, I probably would take over Shohei at this point. Although then again, you're getting 0 stolen bases at that point. The next two, Riley and Seager, you're getting 0 stolen bases. And Seager, well, I'm not going to take him that early now because of his hernia procedure, but that's something we can talk about in a sec. But so that's about where I'm at. And then, although maybe I'm not, maybe I'd find other names to click, but around 20 is where I'm starting to think about it.
And you won't get him there, so.
Well, that's the high end right now. If he's not playing spring training games and start the
that's true. Things could change.
Things
could change in March. You're right, but I think if he's playing, I don't think he's getting the 20.
I agree. I agree with you on that one there.
Also in Dodger land, they seem to have spent most of the money here. Yoshi Yamamoto signed with the Dodgers, 12 years, $325 million. His ADP is about 48, so we're looking at the 3-4 turn. You and I know that in March, at least in NFBC and main events, pitching just tend to push up a little bit, so maybe he gets a little higher. Always difficult to figure out. Guys coming from other leagues, but obviously he was a monster in the Japanese professional league last year. 171 innings, a 1.16 ERA, a 0.86 WHIP. An utter monster. Where do you think he kind of levels out? And looking at something like Steamer, he's a 3.98 ERA guy and a 1.20 WHIP. That will not work at the price, but 200 strikeouts. Where do you fall on Yamamoto? Because this feels like one of the better arms we've seen in a long time coming over from anywhere.
Yeah, it does. And like Japanese, foreign players, period. Pitchers kind of poured over better than hitters in that respect. Where do I have him at 314, 112? So I'm a lot more optimistic than Steamer on the ERA. But then again, I think I'm more optimistic, period, than on players coming over. And maybe that's kind of a blind spot for me. I actually just Jung Hoo Lee, who we're going to talk about a little bit later. I feel like I was a little too optimistic on my projection for him, and I just updated him tonight. I'm just looking across the board at some of the other ERA projections. Yeah, they're not too generous. Like ATC's at 373, Zips is at 352. I'm definitely
don't look at the bat if you like Yamamoto, because it's ugly.
I've got it all on Fangraphs there. That's one thing about Fangraphs is good at 445.
And only 137 innings too.
And only 7.9 Ks per 9 too. Derek's definitely circumspect on Yamamoto. I wonder why. Right. I'd have to ask him about that one there. And that's the thing. It's like,
how much do you weigh in the fact the Dodgers are clearly going 6-man rotation to start the year, if not for most of the year? It seems like they are pretty committed to it right now.
Yeah, well, and committed to it without Walker Buehler being part of it.
I know
too. That's the funny thing. I think that it's one of those where I think Yamamoto, I mean, the amount of they want him to be ready for October, right?
Sure. The chance of them making the playoffs is like 99.5%. So yeah, they care about all these guys in October.
Yeah. I don't know why Uncle Ted thinks that Yamamoto has a glass arm. I don't think that's fair, but I think I might lower the innings a little bit. That's possible.
I mean, yeah, I don't know where glass arm comes in. 2021, 193 and 2/3, 2022, 193, 2023, 171. Like, he's thrown a lot of innings.
Yeah. And he dominant innings at that too. So he, last month he's at 45 in the NFBC. You like him, or I'm trying to find the next, or Tyler. Oh God, another Dodger. Well, I know we're going to talk about that. So Zach Gallen or those two Dodgers? Or Tarek Skubal and Aaron Nola are right behind.
It's a pretty interesting little range, isn't it?
Isn't? And they're, disparate types. If you crave durability, go for Aaron Nola.
Yes.
If you want guaranteed innings, go get yourself some Aaron Nola. But hey, you get an ERA over 4 last year. Do you want that? I mean, that's up to you.
Yeah, that's an interesting little range because Glasnow is obviously awesome, but how many innings are you going to get? And obviously, Dodgers can slow play him a little bit too. Same with Yamamoto. I'd probably go, from what I've seen so far, I'd probably go Yamamoto in that range. But I admit that I am nowhere near ready to make that final decision. But that would be my answer at the moment.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Tyler Glassarm. Yeah, that's what. Okay, it wasn't Yamamoto I was talking about. Okay,
I gotcha.
Looking at the chat. Sorry for those that aren't streaming live with us. Sometimes we refer to the comments in the chat. But Tyler Glassarm, that actually is a good one. I'm gonna give you credit for that one. There, that's a good line. Yeah. I might, the thing is, am I looking for a pitcher there? What am I looking for in that range? When am I taking closers? This is, are we talking 12 teams in the RotoWire Online Championship? Are we talking about 15 teams in the main event? Are we talking non-NFBC entirely? I mean, all these things matter. We use the NFBC as our starting point because it's the best set of ADP we can get out there.
Right.
But there's lots of different ways to play this game.
For sure. It's an interesting little range. I'm gonna have to look at that a little more, but it's weird because you look at hitters in there too. You got CJ Abrams there, and like, good luck figuring out what that's going to look like. It's there's that whole run of pitchers, and there's not a lot of bats in that range. You got CJ Abrams on the high end, and then Royce Lewis kind of on the back end. Those are guys that I think we all think are really talented, but we don't know exactly what they're going to do. It's that 3-4 turn is that's pretty tough.
Yeah, it is. It is. You know what? I envy the people that don't do football sometimes, even though I love doing football. At the same time, they know where they're drafting their targets right now more than I do.
Yes, they do. I don't need to know my targets for a while, but I'm starting to get there, and it's always fun to talk all this through. But a pitcher who is a little bit higher up, just above that range we were talking about, got traded this week, which was I think we kind of all thought Corbin Burnes might get moved, but when you see a name like that get moved, it's still pretty jarring when you see it come across Twitter. Traded to Baltimore too, a good team, obviously a really good young team, a really good place to pitch too. Camden Yards has been different since they moved the wall back and up. A lot of balls go to die in left field. Burnes is a really interesting one this year. His ADP is about 26 right now. As you're talking end of the second round, late second round. He was really good last year. 3.39 ERA, 1.07 whip, 200 strikeouts. But as you look closer, K rate was 35% in 2021, 30% in 2022, 25% in 2023. The walk rate's up a little bit, but you just look at some of the StatCast stuff, and they were elite in 2021. They are no longer elite last year. There was K rate was 65th percentile, walk rate was about 50th percentile, swing strike rate fell to 12%. The BABIP was really good last year. It helped him at 244. His FIP was 381. You can talk yourself into some stuff with Corbin Burnes, but obviously he's still really good, and he was really good last year. Where do you fall on him at the moment? Because it's a big investment at pick 26.
What I'd like to do is actually look at some of those StatCast numbers by like first half, second half a little bit, because if I recall correctly, those first 2 months were pretty rocky for him, maybe the first 5 or 6 weeks, and then he was dominant after that. That's my recall of it. I think, obviously he goes to a better team, the team that's trying right now.
Yep.
Whereas I don't think we can guarantee that with Milwaukee. By the way, in the last 4 days, he went from an ADP of 25 to an ADP of 20. His range went from 16 to 44 beforehand. After the trade, it's 17 to 26. So,
and I did look. Your recollection's right. He went from 23% strikeout rate to 28.5 in the second half. So it did climb nicely. His K minus walk went from 14% to about 21%. So he was much better in the second half. You're right.
Yeah, and the reason why I think that's relevant is he was very unhappy, if you recall, after losing his arbitration case last year. That was a big running story.
Remember that? Yeah.
And then he backed it up by not being great early on. I think he snapped out of it. Now, that's all narrative street. I don't know what changed. It could have been a mechanical tweak. It could have been it got warmer. It could have been a lot of different things. But there's reason. I think it bodes well for optimism. I gave him a couple more wins in my projection, in part because the team context is going to be a lot better. Although it's not all doom and gloom from Milwaukee. This is not like our Reds.
Don't do it this early, Jeff.
Yeah, tearing it down after the owner's lockout or anything like that. This is more just, but at the same time, they didn't.
I don't think you get to put our Reds and our A's in the same bucket. They are far and away in different buckets.
Yeah, they were. They are. But at the time, it felt similar. I will say that. Joe Sheehan in his newsletter wrote about it, and one thing that stuck with me is he said that the Brewers aren't going to be terrible. They went from probably an 85 win team to a 78 win team, unless another shoe drops, right? But at the same time, they didn't have to trade Burnes. Now, they could have gone to the playoffs. Probably could have won a week in El Central. At least they would have been in the hunt at the very least. But they, and they might have even been able to trade him at the trade deadline, got a similar package as a rental pitcher. They didn't. They chose to do it now.
They must have had a pretty good feel that he wasn't re-signing.
Well, yeah, I'm sure, but Doesn't it feel still like a light return, even acknowledging that possibility? Ortiz is a fine defensive shortstop, but they have a shortstop in Willy Adames. If you're playing Ortiz at third base, I feel like you're getting maybe an on-base guy, but pretty light on power. Maybe he grows into that power. Probably doesn't do that this year. I know they've got all these fun, exciting young outfielders, but they no longer have Woodruff. I don't know. It's a tough spot to be in for Milwaukee, I guess, but they no longer have a manager, their same manager. A lot of things like that.
I admit that I'm not the biggest prospect guy, but it felt like to me too. Every time DL Hall, just every time he's a starter, he walks the house. So I don't know. I think they're going to try and use him as a starter, but every time he starts, he has a ton of walk issues. Some of this chat was saying don't draft pitchers. It was Uncle Ted until the late rounds. They mentioned Kyle Bradish and Zach Eflin. Those guys are going in the 6th and 7th round this year, so those are definitely not late rounders. So you're going to have to take a pitcher in the first 10 rounds if you want those guys. But I'd say that was the second. That was probably the second biggest trade. Was that one? Probably the biggest one was in the AL East. Also, is Juan Soto to the Yankees. I mean, this is someone that weirdly has now been on, I guess that's 3 teams in 3 years between the Nationals, the Padres, and the Yankees. Juan Soto is a free agent. Probably San Diego also wanted to get something for him now. Soto last year was 35 home runs, 109 RBI, hit 275, stole 12 bases too, to toss that in there, which you don't always expect. Everything StatCast wise is always elite with this guy. Bright red. He's going to a park that is a 123 park factor for home runs for left-handed hitters, Yankee Stadium. Really good setup there. How do you feel about Soto going to New York? Because it sure seems like he's going to be really, really good there.
Yeah. So park factor for left-handed power, park factor in New York is a 116, at least for last year, according to the StatCast numbers. San Diego is 93. So massive difference. And San Diego depresses average, doubles, triples, homers, you name it. Yankee Stadium only increases homers for lefties. It doesn't increase batting average. It's a little known fact there. So maybe it's not as massive of a sea change as it is. And I don't know if the Yankees lineup is actually better. It requires Stanton to be healthy all year and productive. It requires Rizzo or some of the other disappointing names from last year, DJ LeMahieu to be more productive, something like that. But at the same time, it's still an increase. I noted before the trade, his ADP was 14 with a range of 8 to 20. After the trade, it's 11 with a range of 6 to 18. So, and that strikes me as about right. I'd probably be even on the high end of that range. Again, though, this is all depends on how do you want to handle speed, because you're going to get max 9 to 10 stolen bases out of Soto, probably less with the Yankees. Yeah,
that is definitely the issue there. It's funny you mentioned the Padres lineup. Have you looked at their lineup at all lately? It's wild what they look like from what they did a couple years ago when they were competing and going for it. The back half of their lineup is just absolute dead.
It's rough. It's rough.
I know that you've still got guys to sign, but you look at the roster resource, like their lineup, you got Campusano, Matthew Batten, Cal Mitchell, and Jose Azucar as the bottom 4 hitters. Like that is
right. Well, and
brutal.
Campusano I like, but the other 3, I mean, and
I like Campusano as a second catcher who can hit 8th, not a guy who hitting 6th probably.
Yeah, maybe in that lineup he hits 6th. Though.
He's going to. It's and then you look at the bench. You're like, maybe they got some guys there. You're like, nope, no, I don't see anybody there I want to play either. Oscar Mercado, Bryce Johnson.
And they've had to replace 9 pitchers this year too. It is really rough. And the 5 hitters, Cronenworth is coming off
how fast things happen.
Yeah.
Cronenworth. It's just crazy how fast. I mean, the Nationals, you look at the same kind of thing, and the Padres, it happens fast. You go for it, you try. At least the Nationals did get one in 2019, but man, the Padres went for it, didn't get there, and it's looking ugly right now. They're looking to chop salary. It's going to be tough in San Diego.
Yeah, this is another one where I guess they felt like they had to trade Soto, but once you did that, that's tough. And their principal owner passed away this offseason too, so their TV deal got restructured, and actually some good news on that front with Amazon swooping in. They're one of the teams that benefits from that, so at least that kind of cuts off the hurting a little bit. But Soto.
Your point on Soto is the one that makes sense. It's the stolen bases. If you can deal with the 10 stolen bases, I think he's going to be an absolute monster there. I think it's going to be. I mean, you look at his hard hit rate was 55% last year. I just see him hitting so many laser line drives in the first 6 rows of Yankee Stadium. He'll hit some mammoth ones there too, but he's going to hit so many line drives in those seats. It's going to be, I think he's going to be a monster there.
Agreed. And, batting in front of Judge. Oh, sweet baby. That's lovely. That's
nothing like a 410 OPP guy sitting hitting in front of Judge. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. He might be like 470 this year too. Yeah. The thing is that
you joke, but he was 465 in 2021. Like that's not impossible. Yeah. Like that's
Oof. Yeah. I am big on Soto this year, and that is definitely a guy I'm going to want. Like I said, towards the high end of his range. I'll take him at 7 or 8. I feel like.
Oh, that's a big step right there. In the first round, 2 or 3 spots is a big deal.
Yeah, every spot is a big deal there. Yeah. And I haven't actually. I got to look at that. Yeah, I got to. I actually probably depends on what you do with pitching. Like, do you go Judge or Soto? I think I go Soto over Judge. I don't know. Maybe not. I take that back. Maybe I'm more closer to like 10 or 11 now. Now that I think about it there.
Do you take him over? You take him over Trey Turner?
Yes, I think I would.
Because the Turner year was weird. I mean, you look at all the increased stolen bases, and you say he only stole 30, but it's just because everybody stole bases last year. You know how many times he got caught stealing last year?
Like 2.
0.
Okay.
Is that crazy?
Yeah.
I feel like that stat, like nobody mentioned that. Like that was a big deal in the past. When you were like 30 steals back getting caught. I don't think I heard that once last year. He just had such a rough start, but he was really good the last couple of months. And 30, he just seems like a guy that could, maybe he's 30 now. Maybe he's not going to steal much more than that, but I don't know. He was bad last year, and he's still 26 home runs and 30 stolen bases.
Yeah, well, he was so good over the last 6 weeks.
He was.
Yeah. I don't know if it's because of the "Let's Cheer for Trey Turner" campaign, but it was
pretty well timed though.
Yes. Where you do with Soto kind of depends on what you're doing with pitching in the first round. Do you take Cole in the first round? Do you take Strider? Do you take Burnes? That's how Soto can slip or climb depending on how your point of view is. I currently have Soto at 10. I'm behind Tucker and Judge, ahead of Yordan and Garrett Cole.
Yeah, it's interesting because the first 8 guys in at least NFBC ADP right now are all hitters. I think that we haven't seen that much in a while. There's always been.
I thought Strider was up in that first. Nope.
I just
looking at mine. Never mind.
I just did the last month, so a little bit here.
Right.
Tatis is a little bit ahead of him at 8.24, and Strider's 8.7, and that can move back and forth. But you've got 7 or 8 hitters that go before the first pitcher, which we haven't seen in a main event in a long time. I think that Strider will go 3, 4, 5 in a lot of main events. To be honest with you. Maybe 4, 5, 6. I think the first 3 are pretty much locked in.
So that DC that I'm in right now, I had the 7th pick and I took Strider.
I mean, I don't think I would pass him at 7 in any NFBC draft.
I only won 2 leagues last year. I had Strider in both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, and I also had Acuna in one of those. Acuna Strider as a combo.
You've been doing fantasy baseball a long time. Is this the biggest edge for getting the number 1 pick that we've seen in baseball?
At least since peak Pedro.
No, I wouldn't come up with that one, but that's a really good because he was so much better than every other pitcher.
Yeah. Because the funny thing is, Bonds wasn't always the number 1, even at his peak, which is kind of funny to me. I'm trying to think. There had to have been like peak Larry Walker, but that was such a loaded year. But it wasn't repeatable either. So no, I think this is the biggest edge. It's certainly the biggest edge for a hitter over the rest of the hitters.
It's essentially LaDainian Tomlinson, right? Is that where that's kind of the comp we're at?
Yeah, it's essentially why you set 3rd round reversal in football.
Right.
I'm not in favor of that, by the way.
That changed rules in football. Yeah, I wouldn't do it in baseball either. But it's I mean, you look at projections, everything, you see like auction values, and then it's Acuna, and then like a huge gap to number 2, which we haven't seen in a long, long time. There's always been, I can't remember a year where you and I didn't have a conversation about who number 1 was, and we could kind of argue it. And I think there's just I think he'll go first in every draft.
There's a couple of peak Trout years where he's obviously number 1.
Yeah.
But he wasn't $13 more.
Right. He was like, I could make a case for someone else. I can't even start to make the case for someone else right now.
And that's like $13 more than the next best hitter, next best player, period. And that's with kind of tempering my projection a little bit.
Right. Yeah. It's wild. It's getting that one is going to be different than it is in most years. You're going to really want that spot. I think everybody's going to, KDS will move after that, but everybody's going to have that number one pick at the top. Other signings, Josh Hader went to the Houston Astros. I'd say much to my chagrin, but I don't have a team I root for in the AL West anymore anyway, so I'm okay with it. But 5 years, $95 million. ADP is 56 right now, so he's kind of end of the fourth round. I will admit I haven't dug deep into the closer pool yet, but he's obviously an elite one. 1.28 ERA, 1.1 whip, 35 saves last year in 56 innings. The K rate's still really good. The walks jumped up last year, concerning there.
Yep.
And he avoided home runs really, really well, which gives up a lot of fly balls. So that's always going to be a tough one. The home runs were really good for him last year. 89% left on base rate too was obviously really big. Is your Hader your number one closer? Where do you come in him as an ADP of 56 or so right now?
So I think he is my number one closer, but I'm not drafting a closer. I'm not drafting the first closer.
Because he's not the number one in my ADP. Devin Williams.
No, he's third.
Yeah, Williams and then Edwin Diaz.
Diaz sight unseen is interesting to me.
That's a lot of faith right there, right?
Yeah, it is. My personal closer run starts after everybody else, so I'm not going to get him. I do have Hader as my number one closer, but I have him at 66. So in other words, I'm not going to get him because we'll have to have this discussion a little bit later.
We will definitely do a closer pod at some point in the preseason for sure.
But I've found consistently that I don't need to be the one that takes the first closer, and I'm going to try to limit my. I don't want to. Maybe in a DC it's a little bit different, and of course I'm doing a DC first, but I find that like in previous main events, my better results came when I didn't expend too many early assets on closers. I was deep in starting pitchers, and maybe I had one closer, and then went on the cheap for the second one. And I think I'm going to try to do something similar to that. I want to make sure I have like 6 reliable starters that I can start any given week.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can do that by getting 2 early closers.
I agree there. I found myself thin at the back end of starting the last couple of years. I'm going to try and do my best with it. You can't. The 15 team, you're going to be thin somewhere, but I would like to at least have guys I can feel pretty comfortable throwing out there most weeks, at least until they start to get hurt, and that will happen at some point. But starting pitcher depth, I've learned is super important.
And I also think there are more closers that I like this year.
Okay.
That I feel are pretty comfortable in having the job. I know we just lost Ryan Presley. So, and this is the thing is we're going to lose a couple and then the panic will set in by the time we get to the main event. But, last year we had the fluke Edwin Diaz thing. Then we had some other ones that we weren't sure if they're going to come back on time and all that. But like, I'm going to be shopping in the Alexis Diaz, Paul Sewald tier for my first closer, probably.
Okay. We'll definitely do a closer. Obviously it's a really important spot, but where you grab one's important. Which ones you like, which buckets you like are obviously important. It's a tough position that kind of lives on its own.
It is. I find we try to chase the specialty stats, stolen bases and saves more than, and there's a reason like my dollar values usually are light on stolen base guys and closers. It's because they don't contribute elsewhere a lot of the times. Like Estuary Ruiz. Yeah, he's the new Billy Hamilton, basically. And yeah, if things go perfectly, yeah, he could steal 80 or he could be sent to the minors, And I know we're going far afield here because we were talking about Josh Hader. But point is, I think when I falter, I don't address stolen bases with like guys that can do other things well enough. And so I end up chasing these cheesy stolen base artists later.
Yeah, that's my problem too. Stolen bases cost me a league last year. It's one of those things I'm definitely gonna have to figure out. It's getting guys early that at least do some of that is really important. I got to figure that out. You mentioned starting pitchers. Sonny Gray to St. Louis, 3 years, $75 million. ADP right now is about $1.25. Really good last year. 2.7 NERA, 1.15 WHIP, 184 innings. I think you and I both benefited from Sonny Gray last year. I had him in 2 of my 3 main events. He was really big. The strikeouts are stable. The swing strikeout is up 2%, so I like to see that. Supports the strikeouts well. He had a huge home run drop. He only gave up 0.39 home runs per 9 last year. He was really good in home runs. Now, some of that is he's a really good ground ball guy. 47.5% ground ball. That helps a lot. But he was lucky in home runs last year too. He's one of those guys you flip on a StatCast page. It's kind of middling. It's just not what he's known for is the dominant StatCast stuff. But, the home run fly ball last year was 5.2%. That's scary because his career is 11.5%, even with the ground ball rate. We know he's in for a regression this year in home runs, but obviously the answer is to regress to what? Where do you fall on Sonny Gray at ADP 125 right now?
I kind of like it. He landed in a good spot. It's not going to be a place that really punishes fly balls that badly. In St. Louis, I think he got a remarkably little bullpen and run support for his starts last year. However, Sonny Gray is one of those pitchers that doesn't go super deep into games either. And I think that's one of the reasons why he was light on wins. Not just bad luck, but also not going like pitching 7 that ever, almost ever.
He only went 7-5 6 times all year.
Yeah. So I think that, although maybe that's normal now, I don't know.
That's a good point too. Yeah. I mean, he did throw 184 innings, which I think if you'll take that right now. I mean, he had 119 the year before and 135 the year before that. So it's there's always an injury thing with Gray. He's had that 2 of the last 3 years, but really solid. I'm, as long as you're not paying for 2.8, I don't think you are at the price. I think you're going to get, really solid, which is, that's what you want at pick 125 is your third starter in there. And I think that he works really nicely. I'm maybe not as big a target for me as usual, but someone that I'd be fine taking in the range.
Agreed. I think that especially when I get him at that price, I won't reach earlier for him.
You mentioned Tyler Glasnow earlier when we were talking about the Dodgers. They traded for him in the offseason from the Rays. Obviously, talent he's huge. 3.5 ERA, 1.08 whip, and 120 innings last year. Strikeout rate was 33.5%. Bonkers number as a starter. The walk rate's actually pretty good too. It was under 8%. Swing strike rate is elite, 16.5%. It's just about the innings. He's never topped 120 innings, I believe. I think 120 last year was his highest. So you never topped that. So that's obviously the big factor here. And his price is really high. His ADP is way up there. You mentioned kind of that Yamamoto range, the 3-4 turn. What do you do with him? The thing I really like is not only the strikeouts, he bumped his ground ball rate over 50% last year. It's hard to give up a lot of huge innings where you get a ton of ground balls and a ton of strikeouts.
Yeah, and he lands in obviously a perfect ballpark. He lands with a great organization. Not that the Rays aren't a great organization; they got the most out of him, obviously too. Yeah. But now he's going to get more run support probably too to boot. I actually think I'm a little too high on his innings. I'm tied.
I was about to ask you what your projection is. Inning is.
I've got him at 154. So does Steamer.
Yeah.
Let's see. ATC's got him 141. The Bats got him at 127, and Zips has him at 118. Everybody but Zips has him as a career high.
Yep.
Think about it. And when you said that, and he's like, he's never had more than 120. I'm like, oh God, I'm too high. So that might be when we wrap up today, you might see a different projection for Tyler Glasnow, especially in light of the other comment talking about the Dodgers maybe using 6 starters this year.
Yeah, and I remember the year he threw 111. We were like, all right, finally he's getting over the top a little bit. But that was the year he had a lot of relief innings too. He only started 11 games that year, and they only threw 60 the year after. That scares me a little bit. I think obviously the upside in him is as high as anybody really. Like maybe he could be the number 2 starting pitcher if he stayed healthy all year. Yeah. But I'd like to pay a 6-round price, not a 3-4 turn price. I don't think I'm going to end up with getting him.
Yeah, I haven't yet. And again, that's like when if you get Strider or Cole in the first round, you're obviously not going to get Glasnow.
Right. He's either going to be your first pitcher, which is scary, or he's going to be your second. You really went heavy pitching early.
That's right. Yeah. So you got to think about the consequence. And if you're going to go, and that could work, by the way.
Oh yeah.
But you really better know what your later targets are, because after you get that second early pitcher, you need to be loading up on hitters for a long time after that to make up.
And he's one of those guys you don't need 200 innings out of, but if you're going to pick him that early, you want like 145, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
A couple of hitters kind of in the mid rounds here. Rhys Hoskins signed with the Brewers, obviously missed 2023 with the injury. 2 years, $34 million. ADP on him is about 200. Moves to a good park for home runs in Milwaukee. I think he's kind of just who he is. I mean, he hit 246, 30 home runs, 80 RBI in 2022. K rate's kind of stable. The hard hit and barrel rate fell a little bit in 2022, his last season. StatCast page is really good. I think he's the power's real. He's going to hit 245 kind of guy, which all comes down to what you need at the time.
Yeah. I think the team context is worse. I don't think it's nearly as good a lineup around him as he had in Philly. Before the injury, he was already starting to decline. 2020 is 887 OPS, 2021 864, 2022 794. I've got him projected for 764. I'm a little circumspect here. I only have him for 133 games too. I don't see how you can give him more than that after coming back from a major injury like this.
Yeah, I guess it has been a full year, which does help.
That helps. He's also 31 in March too, though.
He stopped. I mean, his thing when he first came to his career was how many walks he got, and his OBP was really high, and he was a really great real world player. Has fallen off the last couple of years. He's only a 10% walk rate guy the last couple of years. OBP used to be in the 350, 360, 380 range, and then it was down to 330s. Yeah, I'm just kind of okay on him. If you need some home runs in that range, I think he'll got a pretty good chance to hit 28, 32 home runs somewhere in there. It doesn't really excite me in the new situation.
Plus, I gotta mark him down a spot because I could never get his first name right for the longest time. I always used to call him Rice. People used to rag on me for that. Good times.
That's amazing.
Deep emotional scars.
There's someone I forget who it was. Oh, it's Paul DeJong that I can't. It's Paul DeYoung or Paul DeJong. I still can't do it.
That's fine. I mean,
which one is it? It's Paul DeYoung, right?
Yeah, it is. But okay, so
weird.
We got a challenge though in ADP though. Nathaniel Lowe and Rhys Hoskins are right next to each other, 199 and 200 respectively over the last month. Who do you got?
It's a really good question. That is a good challenge piece right there. Probably going Hoskins in that park. I like him a little more. I think the 2022 Nate Lowe batting average season is not something we're going to see again. So I think that he probably hits 260-ish with 22 home runs, and Hoskins lower average of maybe 30 home runs. I'd probably take the extra home runs.
Give me an Nate Lowe.
All right.
Give me.
He's definitely a lock to play more games. I think that you're going to get 155 out of him pretty solidly, and in a really good lineup.
Yeah, better team and better lineup. I think maybe Milwaukee's slightly a better park, although we're still learning about Texas. I don't feel like we fully know the extent of Texas, roof open, roof closed, et cetera, all that. Both of them, all that. But give me Nate Lowe, and it's pretty comfortably by a few rounds.
Yeah, I go Hoskins, not as comfortably, but I would take Rhys.
Okay,
it's good. We can't always agree on everything, right?
I know.
A couple other guys before we jump out of here. There's a lot of guys to talk about. Jung Hoo Lee to the Giants. 6 years, $113 million. The Giants in their quest to finally sign a free agent, get someone to actually come play for them. ADP is 251. He's 25 years old, played in the KBO last year, hit 318, only 6 home runs and 5 stolen bases. It was kind of a short year. I think he had an injury there. 2022 in the KBO, played a full season, 23 home runs, 5 stolen bases. He is well known for his complete lack of strikeouts. He was a 5.9% strikeout guy in 2023, 5.1 in 2022. ADP is 251. You're not really spending a big pick on him, but I'm not sure what we're going to get speed power wise from Lee in his first year in the majors.
Exactly. He strikes me as he's a good on base guy. He'll play center field for you. So good in real life and not so helpful for our purposes there. 11 homers, 8 stolen bases, my projection.
Who was the Reds guy that came over that was kind of that on-base leadoff guy a couple years ago? Do you remember who I'm talking about?
I do, and I
think we really liked him preseason. It obviously didn't work.
Yeah, and I will get it in a second here, but I've already blanked out on that. That's so sad. But yeah, it was one of those guys that I thought was going to be a lot better. It was Akiyama. Akiyama.
That's right.
Yeah.
I kind of have the same vibe. Huh? Yeah, I do, which is not a good vibe, but
played only 2 years with the Reds. That's crazy.
I remember we really liked him that first year. Like, this guy's gonna hit leadoff and get on base all the time in that park, and I kind of get the same vibe. Maybe Lee had a little more pop with that 23 home runs in 2022, but I wish he ran more. Like, only 5 stolen bases. I just don't know what he's going to give you, and you're really, really hoping the average is good.
We're still waiting for Akiyama's first big league homer. He's like on Tim Anderson watch.
Did he not hit a homer?
He had 0 homers for his career.
We couldn't get the first podcast without you bringing up Tim Anderson.
Yeah, sorry. Well, hey, we're just trying to like he wasn't in everybody else's roster, not just yours. Come on.
He hit 1 home run.
I know.
It's still impossible. It's
still out there, right?
I think he is still out there. Yeah. Good luck. There's a lot. You mentioned before, there's a lot of guys who haven't signed. Like, I can't believe that, like, Jordan Montgomery. I can't believe Blake Snell hasn't signed.
I'm surprised Montgomery more than Snell, to be honest with you. Because
why is that? I just figured Snell would be the first guy to sign after Yamamoto.
I feel like Snell's asking for like a massive contract.
Okay.
And where other than Montgomery might be the ask is too much there too. Aren't they both Boris clients?
I know Snell is.
Yeah, and if that's the case, I think that might be why too that they're still out there. But yeah, I'm stunned and I'm surprised Bellinger's still out there too.
Yeah, Bellinger's a Boris guy too, right?
Yeah. So I guess that maybe I shouldn't be surprised if they're all three Boris guys.
I saw a quote from 2 weeks ago that said Snell's seeking 9,270.
That seems heavy.
The 9 really seems heavy.
Yeah, it does. It does. Well,
but what are we like 7 days away from pitchers and catchers, right? We're not that far, right?
Something in that neighborhood there. At the same time, like we say it's heavy. I mean, why do we care about saving the owner's money? I mean, I guess
I certainly don't. I just know what
they
are willing to do. I wouldn't go 9 years for Blake Snell if it were me.
No, I agree. I would.
I'm kind of okay with the dollars per year. I think 9 years for Blake Snell would be,
or any pitcher. 9 years for a pitcher, especially one that's had some durability concerns, or at least ability to go deep into game concerns, and for that matter, performance for Snell.
It is 31, by the way.
Yeah.
I know we talk about Yamamoto and 12 years is crazy, but at least he's 25, but 31 is, you're paying that money for a 38, 39, 40-year-old pitcher last third of that contract. There's no way I'm doing 9 years.
Right.
By the way, there's no way he'll get 9 years either.
I agree.
Yeah. Good segue into pitchers. We got Eduardo Rodriguez, 4 years, $80 million, signing with the Diamondbacks. ADP is about 190. He was good last year. 3.30 ERA, 1.15 WHIP in 150 innings. Swinging strike rate back up a little bit closer to the 2021 range. The strikeout was about 23%. Hard hit was a little high. His stat catch is kind of middling. He just feels like a guy that will be solid to me. I don't think he's going to have a 3.3 ERA, but give me a 3.75 somewhere in there maybe.
Yeah, and Arizona's a good landing spot. That's exactly the type of signing I wanted our Reds to do. I think that he would have been a good fit there.
Probably not for his ratios, but he would have been a good fit. Real baseball.
For the Reds. Yeah. No pitcher is a good fit for that ball.
No.
Yeah. But still, we need it.
Yeah. So are you in on the price on Rodriguez? ADP is about 191.
Sure. Why not?
That 2021 season, you look at his line closely, and it just looks like a real BABIP outlier. His ERA is 4.7 that year, but his BABIP was 3.63. Every other year is kind of either low 300s or high 200s. Like it was kind of a freaky year where everything went wrong for him. And every other year, the 4 years around that have all been 4.05 or below. I think he lands somewhere in the 3.8 range, and that's for that price. I think that works on obviously a really good team that went to the World Series last year.
Yep. We'll have to face the Dodgers a lot, not as much as before the rule change, so the schedule change. But still,
gets to face the Padres and Giants a lot too, though.
Yep, and that's looking pretty good right now.
And the Rockies for half the times.
Yep.
Just give me some bad teams out there this year, Jeff.
Yeah. Yep, there are. And both AL and NL West. I think the Angels are going to be maybe not special bad.
There's only one special bad in the AL West, but I think the Angels could be really bad.
Yeah. The vagabond team that has no home after this year, they're going to be. By the way, I'm sure you've been following. I don't even have to ask you, but this is a continuing shit show when it comes to the A's.
They're not even remotely close to putting a shovel in the ground in Vegas.
Yeah, that's
right. The first plan they have didn't fit in the land area that they were looking to put it in.
Right. And then, we're going to have this presentation in December. Oh, these troopers got killed and we're not going to reschedule. And maybe in March, we'll have a unveiling of it there. I'm like, really? I mean, I was reading up on that. Nobody wants them. Nobody.
Did you see the clip of there was like a Vegas city council meeting and the person out there was like, oh, we're going to talk about the A's next. And not everybody's going to cheer. And nobody made a noise in the whole place. It was awesome.
I saw that. That was amazing.
I'm sure there's probably some context was lost in there, but it's just how dead it was beautiful. Yeah. I'm sure there was something there, but it was just amazing how well that worked out. But a couple of starting pitchers here. Chris Sale traded to Atlanta. ADP is about 153. I like how Chris Sale looked last year. He had a couple of blow up starts that really made his overall numbers look worse than they were. 4.3 ERA, but you look at his a lot of his stuff was back. Strikeout rate was 88th percentile in the majors last year, 29.4%. Walk rate was under 7%. His FIP was about a half run lower than his ERA was. His last 3 starts are really good to the end of the year. He looked really good at the end of the season. StatCast page jumps off the page. Chris Sale's someone that I am going to be in on at the 80 in the ADP at the 150. That's like the 10-11 turn on a really, really good team with an incredible offense. I really like I love the price on Sale this year.
You won't love it by the time it gets to the main event.
I'm afraid. I'm afraid you're right.
I think it'll be 50 points higher. I think it'll be like 100.
I was gonna say like 120, but yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah. As we start,
everybody's gonna dig in and look at that and be like, oh my god, Chris Sale looked like he was back except for those couple of bad starts. Yeah,
that's the thing. It's all it takes is like, oh, he's hitting 97. Look at that swing and miss. You know, we're gonna see that on Twitter, and we're like, oh, maybe fewer people are on Twitter. I don't know. Maybe that'll only boost at 30 spots instead of 50.
I'm afraid all the fantasy baseball people are still on Twitter though.
Yeah, bless their hearts. Thank God.
Are you actually wearing a Fletch shirt? Was that person that
it is?
Correct?
It is Fletch. My brother got this for me a long time ago.
I'm glad we worked that out. I don't want to make sure. I want to make sure just from the Lakers shirt you hadn't. Like,
yeah, I'm not a Lakers fan. No, yeah. It's totally a Fletch shirt, and it says Underhill on the back.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It's great.
That is well done. 2 more starters here, and we'll jump out. 2 guys one guy who was really good last year, one guy who struggled. How do you feel about Marcus Stroman going to New York? Like, he seems to fit well in the fact that he gets so many ground balls. 57% ground ball rate last year. Crazy low fly ball rate. I think it was like 22%. But he's a guy that hasn't pitched a lot. He's back-to-back years under 140 innings. ERA was 3.5 last year. But he's had 4 straight seasons with an ERA under 4. You're never going to get strikeouts from Stroman, but usually he stays in games. He keeps the ERA low, gets a lot of ground balls, manages barrel rates really well. He gives up a lot of hard contact, but a lot of those are ground balls. So, the barrel rate needs to be in the air. How do you feel about Stroman going to New York? I get the feeling like this either works really, really well or really, really badly, and there's no in between possible here.
That's so funny because I think he's just a cromulent signing. I think he's fine.
I feel like I think New York's either love him or hate him, and I can't figure out which one it is.
Probably it depends on how he gets started, right?
Probably very true. Yeah.
I think if he's truly their third starter, he'll be fine. They need Carlos Rodon to be something approximating what they signed him for.
Yes. Because last year was a disaster.
Right. If they're relying on him to be a number 2, if Cole gets off to any sort of rough start, which I don't think he will, but if Cortez is more like 2023 and less like 2022, then all of a sudden, then they're going to be counting on him more, and that'll be problematic. But if he can be their comfortable old shoe as the number 3 starter, then I think he'll be just fine.
Yeah, I hope he is. I obviously really, really like Stroman as the one pitcher in baseball who might actually be shorter than me. I'm a big Stroman fan. I like the fire on the mound. I think you're right. I think like the first 6 starts are going to mean so much to him because I think New York's either going to love him or hate him, and I don't think it's going to be in between at all.
Yeah, I can see it. I mean, yeah.
ADP is 272. I am definitely in on that price. On a team that should score some runs. They added Soto. Who knows what happens with Stanton, but they're going to score some runs. I know they didn't last year. The second half of their offense last year was really bad, but they're a different offense. I don't know. He just always he's just a guy that knows how to pitch, and I know that sounds like you can't really quantify that, but a ton of ground balls always keeps him there, keeps him in games. I think that price is too low.
Yeah, I like it too. I agree with you on that one there. I want to talk. Well, I know you said you only want to talk 2 more pitchers. I want to talk about the Kansas City guys too when we're done with the other one there. So real quick, but
let's talk those pitchers and we'll jump out of here. Lucas Giolito and then the Kansas City guys. Giolito, back-to-back nightmare years. There's no one outlier year. 4.88 last year, 4.90 the year before. Hard hit rate is 41.5%. Barrel rate's 11%. He's like 8th percentile on that number. K rate's 25%, so he's fine there. Walk rate's a little high. Home runs per 9 at 2.0, like a ton of home runs. You look at the StatCast page, not much to like here. ADP is 214 going to Boston. Tough place to pitch. Boston's a really good hitter's park. Fastball velocity is kind of the key for me here. It's down from where it was the 2019 to 21 starts when he was really good. He had a 546 slug against in his fastball last year. That's an ugly number. I just don't think I want to mess with this.
wasn't he the pitcher on that Patriots Day thrashing too?
I think you're right. Yeah.
Um,
He was the guy last year in drafts. Like he was moved up. There were really good players like moving up in the second round last year. Like people were really pushing him up last year, and he was a mess.
give me Stroman at his price over Giolito at his price
Every day. Like I can't believe they're 60 picks apart.
Yeah. I think if you lived through it last year, you're definitely not. This is not a
Yeah.
he owes me sort of thing. It's more
I
like
think I lived through it 2 years ago, so I'm
this,
like,
yeah.
And when you have back-to-back years, there's so many people that live through it. Like maybe someone who didn't experience is going to do it, but whew.
Yeah,
Yeah.
La Russa left him hanging out to dry on that Patriots Day start. I remember that now, and I was so mad. I was mad online for a day.
It seems like a long time since La Russa was there. I know it wasn't, but
No.
man, it seems like a long time ago.
Sure is a good thing they fixed those culture things though by getting rid of La Russa. But oh man, I thought it was the right move too, but clearly they had to do other moves too.
He had so many bad starts last year. He had a 9 earned run game, an 8 earned run game. My God.
Yeah.
His second game with the Angels was a 9 earned run game.
Yeah. Suboptimal.
You mentioned the Kansas City pitchers. I guess we're talking Seth Lugo and Michael Wacha is who you're
and just that they spent money. I mean,
they did.
I mean, KC spent money and like other teams didn't. They signed Hunter Renfroe, which I think is of dubious value. They signed Will Smith, which is even more dubious. And Chris Stratton too. They spent money. And this is something they haven't done. But it speaks to the fact that their pitcher development was so piss poor for so long that they had to bring in arms. I like Lugo. I like that they got, and I also like what they were able to do with Reagans last year too. So maybe there's like something positive. Even Wacha was pretty good last year. You just can't stay healthy. We did the XFL auction in November, and this was before Lugo. Lugo was still a free agent at the time before the Royals snatched him up. I got him, and I also got Michael King, and Michael King obviously ended up in San Diego, which I'm thrilled about.
And going to be a starter.
Yes, well, and I bought him as a starter. I figured he'd be a starter wherever he was.
To show you how far I come along, a month ago, someone shot me a DC list with Michael King, and I'm like, oh, where's he closing? And then I realized that he was not closing.
Yeah, well, it's
come a long way. Come a long way in a month, Jeff.
He did both. And that's the thing. He might revert back, but he won't be the closer in San Diego because they added 3 relievers or 2 relievers plus Suarez is there too. But anyways,
Lugo scares the crap out of me.
Does he? Yeah, I get it.
Swinging strike rate at only 9%, so you're not gonna get strikeouts, and the hard hit rate was 44% last year. It's just a scary combo, like lack of whiffs and a lot of hard contact. ADP is fine. It's 275. Like I don't think he's going to hurt you there.
I wish he would have signed elsewhere, but
yeah, well, that's a good place to pitch, right? If not a good team to pitch for, a good ballpark to pitch in. Hard contact plus no swing and miss. That scares the crap out of me.
Yeah, Lugo or Wacha, who do you prefer?
That's a good question. I think I'm just looking at Wacha here. I'll admit that I hadn't looked at him before we started talking. Yeah, they're pretty close. I'd probably lean slight Wacha.
Yeah, I can see it there.
A little, about 9% lower hard hit rate. Swing strike rate's about 2% better. So I think the strikeouts will be there a little more than Lugo. Back-to-back really good years for Lugo. 3.3 and 3.2 ERAs. Like that's very quietly too. Like I don't think people that jumps out. But
for that price, I mean, I'd rather have Stroman than Lugo at the price. But I might take both.
And Walker's even lower. Walker's 288 in the last month ADP. There's some decent names down there, though. And we're talking, what is that, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th round. I think those are all guys that aren't going to hurt you and have a pretty good chance to help you, too.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's absolutely right.
Stroman,
by the way, the reason why he's down is because he got hurt last year. So he's discounted quite a bit, I think.
Yeah, he's under 140 innings, I think, the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, so I think that's the reason why he's so cheap right now. But I'll still take that chance because I'll take 140 innings at pick 275. Also, by the way,
I think people are scared to death of Yankee Stadium too, but I think he's got the profile that actually can be okay there. I mean, 57% ground balls is a ton.
It is.
Before we jump out, I got to ask you: Teoscar Hernandez going to LA. How do you feel about our former friend there?
He's still our friend. Teoscar.
Still our friend.
It's a 1-year deal. Can't be bad for the Dodgers that much. I mean, whatever. I mean, it's expensive, but they print money. So,
they had 35,000 at FanFest yesterday, by the way.
As well, they should. And this is why
35,000. My God, it looked. I saw the clips. It looked insane. It looked a horrible place to be at. But my God, 35. Just the selling of beer and food to all those people. Like, what a day for them.
Yeah, but you know what? They invest in their product.
Yeah,
they get the reward. Good for them.
LA fans get a lot of heat, but man, that place is sold out almost every night. That place is packed all the time. Every game you go to is maybe not sold out on a Tuesday night, but like there are 30 plus, there are 35, 40 every night. That place is jumping.
Yeah, exactly. I think Teoscar could. I mean, obviously he wasn't getting helped in Seattle by the ballpark.
No.
So going to LA is not going to hurt him in that respect. He's a guy that's not that great defensively.
That's a very nice statement about our family member.
Yeah, I know.
And he can't DH there either is a problem.
True.
Although, at all.
Well, wait. Oh yeah, because Ohtani. I was thinking JD's not there anymore. Oh yeah. JD's still unsigned.
We only started the show with him, Jeff.
JD is unsigned still.
JD's unsigned too. You're right. He was good last year.
He was great. It was a great chance by them. Teoscar also is the only righty in their outfielders. Isn't that right? I mean, they've got Outman. Trying to look. I'm pretty sure
Jason Hayward.
Yeah. Chris Taylor, I guess, too, still stands out there, and they have Manny Margot now too, so they do have other righties. But obviously, DH is, aside from a day here and a day there, is not available. You're right about that. That's true for that kind of hurts someone like Max Muncy. I would feel like they want to give him a day, just let him DH. They can't really do that.
I mean, I can't do it at all. Like you want Ohtani to hit there for 150 games a year.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, as long as I think Teoscar, the thing I realize is that batting average of 2021 is just not coming back. That 25% strikeout rate was an outlier. He's been 28% or higher every other year in his career, aside from his rookie year. He only played 41 games. He was 31% last year. The hard contact is real, but the strikeouts are really real. So as long as I think you're going to be okay with 255, but you get 255 with 28 homers and 6 to 8 steals in that park, in that lineup. ADP is 126. He was like a fourth rounder last year. I'm okay with ADP. Yeah, I know. I took him too. I'm okay at that ADP, but not a target for me. I think he's fine in that range, but not someone I'm going to jump off the page to.
Agreed.
Yeah, our friend Anthony Giolito asked, do you think they play Ohtani every day? I think that, early on, maybe he gets some days, but I think as you get in the summer months, like, I think he's going to want to play every day. And I think you're going to want him in there every day. So I think that, maybe 150 was too high, but 140 of those games is going to be DHing. And I think the brunt of his games off will be in the first, 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah. Bottom half of that Dodger lineup is a little, I mean, Hayward, can he repeat? Gavin Lux, what's he going to look like this year?
Fascinating question, because I have no idea. I mean, he was the guy 2 years ago, and now who the heck knows?
He wasn't really even the guy when he was the guy. That's the other.
But like in the minors, he was the guy. Like he was mashing in the minors.
But he's never done it at the big league level.
He has not. Yeah.
Vargas could get a dead cat bounce. That's an interesting guy to me. But where's the playing time? That's the tough part, because now he's going to be looking in the outfield, because Mookie Betts is the full-time second baseman.
Wild.
Of course, Vargas isn't a second baseman either. That's the other thing. But then again, Freddie and Mookie and Shohei every single day.
Oh, is that a fun time? Like, you just don't miss the first inning of Dodger games, right?
Right. Because Freddie never sits. Freddie's always there. Yeah. Mookie's almost always there. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, that top three is just freaking awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Will Smith might have a few guys on base hitting fourth too.
And I think he has a nice little bounce back too, by the way.
Yeah, I do too. He's going to have his runner scoring position. He's going to have guys on base all day long.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's jump out of here. I think that it's funny. We had some other stuff we were going to think about talking about in case we had enough time, but obviously we tend to talk. When we talk baseball, it tends to go fast, but take a while. So it's we'll hit corner infielders either next week or the week after. We have those kind of saved up, and we'll definitely figure that out. But Jeff, anything else on your mind before we jump out of here?
No, just happy to be doing this again.
Me too. It's so funny. I'm like, oh, it's February. How can I talk about baseball? And an hour and 15 minutes later, I'm like, we didn't even hit we hit like 2/3 of the stuff on the spreadsheets or
Exactly.
on the outline, so that's good. But want to thank everybody for listening. We will be at you on Sunday nights for many, many months here. Always look forward to it. It's always a lot of fun for us. We appreciate all the kind words. I had a number of people. We had a lot of responses on Twitter after you tweeted out that we were back today. That was really nice to read.
It's heartening.
We do really, really appreciate that. It helps me get really into baseball because I tend to start a little bit slow with baseball, but talking to you and talking to everybody about it really makes it a lot of fun. I want to thank Fantrax for their sponsorship of the podcast all preseason. We really appreciate that. You want to follow Jeff on Twitter? What are you at? Jeff_Erickson is his Twitter. I am at Scott Jenstad. We'll be talking baseball. I'll be ramping it up. Jeff's already talking to baseball on there, but we'll be getting there. So if you have any questions, hit us up there. Other than that, really happy to be back. Thanks everyone for listening. A lot of questions in the chat, a lot of chatter in the chat, which is always fun to see. And we'll back at you next week. And most importantly for this podcast, Jeff, go Niners. Take care, everyone. Have a really good week.